welcome back to Open. So, Live Big Girl, A Chair That Fits, is a poetic play that highlights body positivity and empowerment. And guess what? It's coming to the Bronx. Directed by acclaimed Peggy Robles-Alvarado and penned by celebrated writers Vanessa Chica Ferreira and Rebecca Lois Lucre, Live Big Girl centers around the universal desire for acceptance, bringing to life the stories of individuals navigating the world in bodies that society deems too big, challenging beauty norms and society's skewed body image standards. And joining us to share more, please welcome Live Big Girl, A Chair That Fits director and friend of the show, Peggy Robles Alvarado.
Hey, buenos días.
Buenos días. Of course, we're going to throw in the Spanish porque me está hablando desde Puerto Rico.
Yes, desde la isla de Borinquen. Yes.
Ay, ay, ay. Qué vida, qué vida. Love it. That's the only part of technology I dig, right? Because I understand you're flying back and forth for business purposes and the fact that you've made yourself available to be with us today, knowing that you're going to have to come back anyway because you have a show opening up very shortly right here on the campus of Lehman College. So let's talk a little bit about what this process has been like for you, Peggy, because if I'm not mistaken, this is a second rendition of the show, right?
Yes, this is the second version of the show. It's completely revamped. The first show included three poets, three writers, and me as director. And it was more of an experiment of how to discuss body image through poetry, storytelling, and a stage performance, right? And we were just kind of collecting vignettes and collecting poems and they hired me to be a dramaturg and I said, okay, I can create something out of these pieces. I'm not living personally in a bigger body, but I know what it feels like to be a marginalized body. So how do I do this with care? How do I do this with integrity? And it was a lot of talking back and forth. And in this rendition, two of the original cast members decided to write again. So many of the pieces are brand new. And when I served as dramaturg for this version, I was like, how can we make this more dynamic? How can we engage the audience further? And how do we get this message across in a new way? And we did. And we ended up hiring a Puerto Rican animator, Brian Jimenez, and he animated five of the pieces that are in the play. This play is also a full length play, whereas the first one was a shorter version. So we have all these beautiful moments in the play. Some are hilarious, some are las doñas del barrio giving you advice
Right?
and kind of dispelling myths about bigger bodies. And then we have other moments that are really raw and tender. But we also have spoken word competition style. So it's a very eclectic mix of what poetry can do on stage. And I'm really proud of this work as a woman, and I'm proud of this work as a Bronxite and as a Lehman alumni, that Lehman Stages would host us there April 20th and April 21st. I'm really excited for everyone to see this work.
It sounds really exciting, and I love the way you expressed the dynamics of knowing that this story, while it's centered around big girls, it's really not about solely big girls. It's about being marginalized.
Absolutely. And I've had people ask me, well, why, how can you direct and put together this show if you're not a bigger bodied woman?
Hmm.
I don't have to be a bigger bodied woman to understand being a woman in a body that is isolated or in a body that is seen as not ideal and not standard beauty. I'm 4 foot 11. I'm a Latina woman who walks in the world really loud. And I know what it means to be categorized inappropriately and unfairly. So for me, it was also a learning process, working with bigger bodies on stage and thinking about accommodations and how can I make you feel comfortable in this very vulnerable work, right? How me as a director, what accommodations do I need to be aware of so that I don't put you on stage in a way where I'm thinking everything's good and you're feeling very insecure and uncomfortable. So it was a lot of conversation around that type of work. And poetry lends itself well to vulnerability. As you know, you're also a writer and a performer. So, you know, poetry lends itself really well to that range of emotion. And when I said, let's write and let's do this and let's add these things, and I gave them my perspective as a person looking from the outside in. So we discussed that as well.
You
And
know,
we've had
that's actually a good point you just made right there because the guest prior to you, we were just talking about perspective and point of view. So I think it's valuable to have a different point of view and you being on the outside looking in while being sensitive to the needs of within the messaging that they're actually delivering, right? So I want to know, like for you, as a director and as a dramaturg, right? Because initially you were brought on to dramaturg the piece, and I love that you just took it on to mount it, and I think this is conversation. These are conversations, I should say, that are we need to have more of, and I want to say from a marketing perspective, as a fellow producer. Um, do you find that it's challenging to enroll people to want to come see a show that is depicted about big girls if they're not a big person themselves?
It's so interesting you say that because when I was promoting the show initially in the beginning, I had people comment like, "Oh, this is promoting obesity. Why don't you promote healthy habits?" I said, "Well, you haven't seen the show. You don't know what we're promoting." And it's not promoting obesity at all. In
Hmm.
fact, if
Hmm.
you look to and do your research, you will know that Rebecca Lois Lucret, if you look into her just her social media, she is a dead weight lifter. What? Vanessa Chica is also very much into being healthy. This is not a show that promotes that. So I think the misconceptions around bigger bodies and the ideas that people have, like, oh, I don't want to see that because I don't want to be associated with that. Well, yeah, well, that's what the show addresses. How
Right.
we were raised to believe, eat your plate, eat
Right.
everything on your plate. But then I'm gonna turn around and tell you you're eating too much and you're too big and you have to get smaller, right? It's those kind of like mismessages that we're brought up with.
Right.
So we challenge that through poetry.
Yeah. No, I love it. I love that you use poetry, right? Because in poetry, there's kind of like no rules, right? It's like metaphoric, and you can interpret it whatever way you like and whatever way it serves, right? And so,
Poetry definitely has gives you a range of tools, right?
right,
You can go really, really deep, or you can go really, really abstract.
right.
But we do a nice healthy balance of that. And we definitely want to thank. I want to shout out BCA because if it was not for their um, grant process, their Gilman Foundation Fund, Creative Capital, I'm sorry, Creative granting, this show would have not been possible. And they saw something in us, and they offered us a production grant, and that's what we used to mount this show. So we are very, very much in gratitude for BCA
For the
for
Bronx
believing in
Council
us.
on the Arts.
Yes, Bronx
Yes.
Council on the Arts is an amazing institution, and I've always said that the Bronx made me an artist, and a lot of that has to do with the support I receive from the Bronx Council on the Arts. So shout out to them.
You're welcome, because you know I serve on the board.
Yeah, but
Even though I'm not, I'm not the decision maker when it comes to
no,
grants.
but I want you to know the impact, right? The impact that funding projects like this has on our community and on our artists in the Bronx. I think that also there's misconceptions around that, like, oh, there's no Bronx artists, or there's no Bronx playwrights, or there's no Bronx this. We do exist. And if it was not for the funding and the support and the initiatives of the Bronx Council on the Arts, we wouldn't be able to get this kind of platform. So we are very much indebted and appreciative of that.
That's amazing, and I say amazing from the perspective of, like, it's because of institutions like Bronx Council on the Arts that these stories actually are given birth to and are actually developed, right? Because again, these are conversations that I think we need to have more of, so that we are operating more judgment free. We'll say more judgment free, because that's the issue that we have. Is like we live in a very judgmental society.
I think we're all just afraid of each other. And it was like, how do I appear that I'm not afraid? And so let me just throw this at you, right? And doing this kind of work has been challenging. Like you said, some people are like not interested in the show because they think it's not for them. But I think they're wrong. And if you give it a chance, you would know. And we offer senior discounts, student discounts, and group discounts. And it's been an interesting response from people who do know our work. They're very supportive. They're like, we're coming out, we're bringing a whole group. And then you have people who, like I said, will make comments when we promote. And I'm like, why don't you come see the show? Why don't you evaluate it afterwards and tell me what you think? And it happened with the first round as well. You know, people were kind of like, well, this is not a show for me. Is it though? You don't know,
Right.
right? Unless you experience it. So we just want to get these bodies out of the margins, put them on center stage, and see what happens. But come out and, you know, visit us online, look at what we're doing. And if you can't physically come out, then support by donating a ticket, and we can give it to someone in need who really wants to come see the show but is not able to afford it. So there's other ways to support our work. And if you look us up on social media, Live Big Girl, you'll find information on how to do that.
Brava, brava. Thank you for bringing it here, and thank you for your conscious work, Peggy, because really that's what this is about. You know, it's about giving life and shedding light on living more consciously. Really, that's what this is about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for having me.
Always,
Um, I
always.
look forward to being on your show every time.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have to take care of each other. And not only that, I think it's important for you guys, our viewers, to know that this is here available to you, for you, here, right here in the Bronx. Once again, that was Peggy Robles-Alvarado, director of Live Big Girl, a chair that fits. And once again, Live Big Girl, a chair that fits, runs Saturday, April 20th at 6 p.m. and Sunday, April 21st at 3 p.m., happening at Lehman Stages, located at 250 Bedford Park Boulevard in the Bronx. And for tickets, you can visit eventbrite.com. All right, Peggy, mwah, te quiero mucho. Stay tuned. There's more open when we return.